If you don't know me, my name is Daryloth. I run a YouTube channel here that's largely focused on the Elder Scrolls and other fantasy games. This video has gotten a lot longer than I initially intended for it to be, but I just needed to rant about Bethesda for a bit here. I initially wrote this script months ago during the Game Awards when I saw that Elden Ring was already getting a spin-off and The Witcher was getting another installment. It irritated me, and it reminded me, once more, just how poorly Elder Scrolls fans are treated. And if you're a Bethesda employee watching this, I hold no ill will towards you. I genuinely just want to see you do better as an organization. And if you're a Bethesda fan, well, I think we're all on about the same page at this point. But anyway, let's get on with it. So I've been an Elder Scrolls fan since 2010, and I just haven't felt appreciated by Bethesda in many years, as I'm sure is the case for many others out there. I went from being a starry-eyed kid who once wanted to work for this company to becoming a disgruntled former Bethesda fan who honestly just wants to see the Elder Scrolls IP move on to a different studio at this point. Since 2011, the Elder Scrolls series has essentially been frozen in time. Though there have been several entries into the series since then, the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim was the last mainline game to come out, and the timeline has not progressed forward past the in-game year of 4th Era 201. For those keeping track, that means that it's been 13 years since a proper sequel to Skyrim, which, for those of you who may not have been around at the time, was one of the best-selling games of all time. And it was a big deal. With games like The Witcher 4 and Elden Ring Night Ring getting announced recently at the Game Awards, it made me really start to think, what the hell is Bethesda doing? They've essentially squandered any good name that they had left as a company on ridiculous and greedy projects throughout the past decade that often fail completely flat compared to their previous games, which many considered to be at the time, and some still consider to be, masterpieces. In order to give you some reference, let's compare Skyrim to Dark Souls, a game that was released just under a month before Elder Scrolls V. FromSoftware, the company responsible for Dark Souls, has, according to Google, a similar team size to Bethesda Game Studios, with both having around 450 people at the ready, so I think it's totally fair to compare the two. FromSoft have released 13 games since Dark Souls' initial development, 2 of which were sequels to Dark Souls. After 3 years, Dark Souls 2 was released, and 2 years after that, in 2016, came Dark Souls 3. All 3 games have their fan bases within the community. In 2015, they went on to create Bloodborne, a gothic Lovecraftian take on the Souls style of game, which went on to become even more popular than Dark Souls for some fans, although this game was unfortunately a PlayStation exclusive, meaning that a significant portion of FromSoft fans, like myself, have never really played it. Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice was then released in 2019 and has been praised for the new mechanics and complexity upon their already award-winning formula. Speaking of which, Sekiro went on to be named Game of the Year in 2019. Cut to 2022, and FromSoftware released Elden Ring, a game in which they partnered with acclaimed Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin to create an entirely new IP, which jumped the shark in terms of the previous scope of their Souls-like games, adding the largest map yet to be featured in their lands, and a host of new gameplay mechanics. Elden Ring, just like Sekiro, went on to win Game of the Year in 2022. This is not even to mention their other projects like Armored Core or Daracene, or their many DLCs such as Artorias of the Abyss, The Ringed City, Old Hunters, or of course Shadow of the Erdtree, which, despite being a DLC, was somehow eligible for Game of the Year in 2024 due to its immense size. So my point is, FromSoftware has been busy. Dark Souls was an immediate hit, and it essentially spawned an entirely new genre of games referred to as the Souls-likes. Regardless of your opinion on the series or these games, it is undeniable that FromSoftware has a high work ethic and leaves their fans and players typically satisfied with their projects. So with that in mind, let's look towards Bethesda Game Studios for just a moment. Really quickly, I would like to clarify something because I'm sure someone watching may not know. If you already know the difference between Bethesda and Bethesda Game Studios, feel free to skip to this timestamp on screen. Bethesda Game Studios is different from Bethesda Softworks. BGS is a studio of game developers whose frontman is Todd Howard, and Bethesda Softworks is a publishing company. So, games such as Skyrim and Fallout 4, for example, were Bethesda Game Studios games published by Bethesda Softworks. But Bethesda Softworks published tons of other games and studios, such as Arcane's Dishonored franchise, id Software's Doom franchise, and Machine Games' Indiana Jones recently, just to name a few. All of the games on screen right now have no affiliation with Bethesda Game Studios. They are simply all published under Bethesda Softworks. To keep things really simple, Bethesda Game Studios is responsible for Fallout and Elder Scrolls, and that's basically it these days, unless you want to count Starfield like a psycho. I bring this up because sometimes the accomplishments of other studios get attributed to Bethesda Game Studios, which really isn't fair. Honestly, either BGS or Bethesda Softworks should just probably change the name of their company at this point to avoid confusion, but I digress. Anyway, what have BGS done since 2011? Well, a full 4 years after Skyrim's release in 2015, Fallout 4 launched alongside a mobile game called Fallout Shelter. Thankfully, the very next year, we got a new game. Oh, no, we didn't. It's a re-release of Skyrim. It's the special edition. Okay. I mean, I guess it's nice to see the graphics get updated for next gen, but it had only been 5 years. I mean, we probably could have waited on that. But that's fine, because in 2017, we received... Oh. Yeah, we got Skyrim and Fallout 4 again. But this time for VR. Okay. I mean, that's smart. You have to keep your games playable on all types of new hardware, I suppose. Let's investigate a little bit further. The very same year, Bethesda released something called the Creation Club, which was automatically loaded onto every copy of Skyrim and Fallout 4. The Creation Club added extra content that players could pay for through buying creation credits. These creations were fan-made mods that Bethesda... Wait, what? They were fan-made... What does the script say? These creations were fan-made mods that Bethesda vetted and approved for sale themselves. Oh. They were contracting modders to make paid content for their 6-year-old game. Okay. Yeah, so this is when the cracks in the wall started to form for me. I don't blame the modders at all in this process. They were just trying to get some money, which I can respect. But this was genuinely beyond greedy and scummy on Bethesda Game Studios' behalf. As a console gamer for most of my life up until recently, the only way I could get mods was through the Creation Club. Meanwhile, people on PC had access to Nexus mods for years on end. It was a predatory scheme to make a quick buck off of deprived fans. Then, in 2018, Fallout 76 launched, a fully online MMO-style game by a studio that had never created an online game before. Yeah, I'm sure you can imagine how that went over. Fallout 76, despite having a beautiful map and well-designed new enemies, was an asset flip of Fallout 4 that was thrown together with duct tape, spit, and crazy glue. It also didn't contain any human NPCs at the beginning of the game's launch, making the overall experience just empty and hollow. And if you don't believe me, I was there, goddammit. I bought the $80 version on my Xbox, I played the open beta, and I beat the game, so just trust me on this one. Fallout 76 also opened a shop known as the Atom Store, which was a way to make money off of their fans. Again, just like the Creation Club. Do you see the trend that's starting to form? By 2020, Bethesda's next project was released, which I'm honestly confident that many of you watching this video will have never even heard of. Elder Scrolls Blades. It's a dungeon crawler / city builder game. This was a mobile project. I remember it got delayed heavily because I was signed up for early access, and I actually got to play this piece of shit. I got to play this game on my Android in 2019. Elder Scrolls Blades was received with mixed reviews by the community and heavily incentivized players to use their in-game store to buy microtransactional currency in order to speed up the process of artificially inflated build times for shops and houses within your town. That shouldn't really come as a big surprise at this point, though, should it? They also lazily imported the Skyrim character creator here rather than making their own style for the game, and many other assets were just completely reused to make this heaping pile of dog shit. I've already talked about Blades on this channel before. I really don't want to talk about it again. It's the most hollow and vapid thing I've ever touched. One thing that I don't think I've ever mentioned is that Blades was supposed to be released on consoles, according to our boy Todd.
And we are going to bring Blades to every device and system we can. Phones, PCs, consoles, also virtual reality, on mobile, all the way up to high-end VR on PCs.
And yeah, that's literally never going to happen. So, sorry, Blades fans. By 2021, 1 year after Blades, we received a new piece of content, except it wasn't new. The Skyrim Anniversary Edition was the thing that we got. So we celebrated the 5-year anniversary with the special edition, and now the 10-year with another one. I guess I'll see you all for the 15-year celebration at some point too. I mean, how far up your own ass do you have to be to re-release a game like Skyrim that many times? I know it's a big meme in the community, but really, pull yourself back and think about it for a second. It's just stupid. And the worst part is that the Skyrim Anniversary Edition is not even a new edition. The Skyrim Anniversary Edition was Bethesda's last-ditch effort to sell all of their stupid, greedy stuff from the Creation Club, since many players weren't buying from it, and rightfully so. Their brilliant idea, and I actually do mean that it was smart, was that they repackaged all of their products from the Creation Club into a new bundle called the Anniversary Edition, which tricked players into buying it because they thought it was a real upgrade. Now, if you own the Anniversary Edition, your copy of Skyrim is forever flooded with 1 million low-effort mods and 0 voice acting, empty fetch quests delivered by courier notes, and simply inexplicable lore contradictions. Again, I don't blame the modders for this stuff. I blame Bethesda Game Studios. I don't understand why some of the Creation Club quests have the same level of quality as the Unearthing Mehrunes Razor quest from Oblivion. Even the main 2 big creations that were promoted during the Anniversary Edition's release, called The Cause and Ghosts of the Tribunal, have exclusively reused dialogue from other NPCs in the base game. I mean, you're telling me that Bethesda Game Studios couldn't hire like 2 voice actors, or literally just 1 voice actor, to come in and record some lines? It's lazy. All the information in these is just delivered through notes and journals, which has become an annoying trend lately. Also, half the stuff in the Creation Club is just old weapons and armor from previous Elder Scrolls games that have very weak reasons for being there. Umbra's exclusion from the base game Skyrim for existence was on purpose, since it had been blown up essentially at the end of the Greg Keyes official novels. Spoiler alert. And now it's just randomly there in Skyrim? I don't fuck with that. It pisses me off. Like, oh hey, it's the Crusader armor from Knights of the Nine. Whoopee. I'm sure this isn't just here as nostalgia bait to make people pay for your cheap mod. Oh wait, that's exactly what it is. I'm not surprised. It's just... If you like the Anniversary Edition, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But Bethesda could have been releasing actual, curated DLCs this whole time instead of contracting modders to pump content into their game. Even 1 DLC every 2 years would have been fun to see. It would have helped advance the storyline a bit and maybe even draw up hype for Elder Scrolls 6. Even Gearbox, a notoriously shitty company, understood this. When Borderlands 3 was released, they made a new DLC for Borderlands 2 that helped tie it and Tales from the Borderlands to the sequel a bit more. They even made it free for the first month of its release, which was wildly generous to the fans. And I mean, take a look at Larian. They're adding a new DLC-sized update to Baldur's Gate 3 completely for free, adding in new subclasses for every single class available. It's just flatly insane what other studios out there are willing to do for their loyal fans. Anyway, I'm done talking about the Anniversary Edition, but I will say, I think it's the worst thing Bethesda Game Studios has done in a while. So fast forward to 2023 and Starfield releases, which Bethesda had been promoting for years on end with a teaser trailer way back in 2018. And it was, it was just sort of meh. It came out and then everyone forgot about it because Bethesda refuses to update their engine or the way that they make their games. Honestly, I'm sure many people didn't even know about it or care to know about it. It had a generic name, generic box art, and it overall just looked boring. It looked like someone typed generic space RPG into ChatGPT and this was the result. I've only played Starfield twice, once on Steam and once through Game Pass, and I refunded it both times because I refuse to endorse this product. Or Bethesda, to be honest at this point, but Starfield wasn't all that, and it just heavily reminded me of Fallout 4 in many ways. Reused animations, namely, which is really strange considering that this game supposedly took 8 years to make. Meanwhile, Bethesda's animations between Morrowind and Skyrim changed drastically in a period of just 4 years, and in the 5 years between Skyrim and Oblivion, the animations changed for the better yet again. I just don't know. I don't know why they've decided that Fallout 4's style of gameplay is the format. It's like the thing they're going to cling to now, but just fuck it, whatever. Lastly, Bethesda released this sleeper trash called Elder Scrolls Castles, which is their 3rd mobile game. It's basically a reskin of Fallout Shelter with horrendous looking player models, to be honest with you, that look like they were made on the Nintendo Wii. If you'd like my full opinion, I have a video talking about castles, but honestly, I literally can't even bring myself to talk about it at this point. It's just bad. It's after your money. Just don't even... So to recap this comparison, FromSoftware has released 13 games since Dark Souls in 2011, with one on the way next year. 2 of those games have been sequels to Dark Souls, while 3 others have been spiritual successors. Bethesda has released 3 games: Fallout 4, Fallout 70 Shits, and Shartfield, alongside 3 mobile projects, Fallout Shelter, Blades, and Castles. And this isn't even talking about other Bethesda Game Studios competitors like Larian, Rockstar, Obsidian, CD Projekt Red, or many others, which have far surpassed anything Bethesda Game Studios has done in years. So I will ask again, what the fuck is Bethesda doing? Well, unless you've not been paying attention, Bethesda wants your money more than anything else. They don't value you as a player, and they certainly don't value your intelligence as a consumer. I haven't even talked about the writing in their games yet, Jesus Christ. So, famously, Emil Pagliarulo gave this speech about how he designs games, and it is one of the most atrocious things ever. I don't think that Emil is a bad guy by any means, and I don't want this to sound overtly mean, but I'm trying to make a point here. Just listen to this.
When we start writing a story at Bethesda, when I start working with the team, we start big. We always want to do this. So we always want to write the great American novel. It's going to be this thick. And on every page will be written comedy and tragedy, and it'll be wonderful. It'll be amazing. And you're going to give this book, this great American novel, to the player. And what are they going to do with it? They're going to rip out every page and make paper airplanes out of them. And they're going to throw them around the room. And they're never going to see your story. Because the story is there, right? But they are going to spend 30 hours making shacks.
He straight up said that Bethesda fans don't care about the stories in their games, so they don't need to push themselves to make better stories. Why try to write Moby Dick as your story when people are going to, what did he say again? Ignore it and just make shacks? Actually, we'll come back to that. Let's route back and talk about their 2 different franchises for a moment. From what it looks like to me, Bethesda has been pumping all of their time and resources into Fallout as of late instead of Elder Scrolls. Fallout not only received 2 back-to-back releases, 3 actually if you count Fallout Shelter, but they've done crossover events with Magic the Gathering recently and Amazon for the TV show. A quick look on the Bethesda store shows the sheer disparity in products available as well, with 129 Fallout-related items on their store. Meanwhile, Elder Scrolls is sitting pretty at a measly 29, all of which, by the way, are either Skyrim-themed or Elder Scrolls Online-themed. Because who cares about Oblivion, Morrowind, Arena, Daggerfall? Just take your pick, no one cares about those. Fallout also recently got a TV show on Amazon Prime, and Fallout 76, despite massive initial rejection by the fanbase as a whole, has continued to get updated throughout the years, and has likely pulled dozens of resources away from Elder Scrolls 6, potentially pushing back the release date of 6 by years. But why is this? Why is Fallout the golden child now, while Elder Scrolls, the brand that put Bethesda Game Studios on the map, is just left to rot?
Merchandising.
Well, in my eyes, it comes down to marketability, and I believe I've touched on this in my Elder Scrolls Castles video, but I'm going to bring it up again. Elder Scrolls is simply not as marketable as a franchise as Fallout is. Fallout is extremely easy, actually. They have the Vault Boy, they have Vault Suits, Nuka-Cola, the American 50s aesthetic in every game, power armor, Pip-Boys, and a billion other things.
Spaceballs the t-shirt. Spaceballs the coloring book. Spaceballs the lunchbox. Spaceballs the breakfast cereal. Spaceballs the flamethrower. The kids love this one. Last but not least, Spaceballs the doll. Me.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Adorable.
Elder Scrolls, meanwhile, doesn't really have things that translate that well across the series. All of the armor and weapon types change throughout the Elder Scrolls games. The settings vastly differ from one another, and so too does the gameplay and the user interface for all the games, not even to mention the themes are often drastically different as well, making a singular motif or style difficult to embody in merchandise. And Bethesda technically hasn't needed to make an Elder Scrolls game for years now, since ESO has been around since 2014, developed by ZeniMax Online Studios, not Bethesda Game Studios. And while many Elder Scrolls fans have been unhappy with ESO, do you think that really matters to them? ESO has its own in-game predatory store, which honestly may have inspired the genesis of the Creation Club, and it releases overpriced DLCs every year which rake in tons of money from their sharks, or from deprived Elder Scrolls fans who just want to play a story set in Tamriel again. And look, I have over 100 days of playtime on ESO, but I think it's an MMO first and an Elder Scrolls game second. Its prime function is to get you invested and take your money. And this is no shade thrown on the employees at these companies again. I don't think anyone who works at these studios is intentionally releasing bad products year after year, or at least I would hope not. But I wanted to really get the point across that it seems like Bethesda's prime function has shifted from making good games to making money. And this was long before even the Microsoft takeover. Also, The Elder Scrolls Legends, which was not made by Bethesda Game Studios, has been one of the few projects over the years produced by these people that has not been predatory on the player's wallet. However, as of January 30th, 2025, The Elder Scrolls Legends was cancelled, while Blades, Shelter, and Castles remain. Just saying, the only one that wasn't predatory got canned. Rest in peace, Legends. But back to Bethesda Game Studios. Bethesda's RPGs have been getting simpler and simpler as time has gone on. That's a fact that even the most die-hard Bethesda enjoyer can't deny. The thing is, there's nothing inherently wrong with simplification so long as the product you make is still good. Again, Skyrim was once one of the most revered and widely played games of the 2010s, and it's much simpler than its predecessors. This is because of access they had to a wider market due to this simplification. And I think generally speaking, it's a good thing to have more people playing your games for exposure to the universe. But Skyrim is still functional. It might be a little bit buggy, and it's more of an action RPG than a traditional one, but that's fine. Despite broader accessibility, Skyrim still has a very well-designed map, distinct locations with memorable characters, one of the best soundtracks of all time, a generally fun gameplay loop, and its simplistic combat is at least easy to adapt to on the fly. The main gripe that people have with Skyrim these days is that it is not an RPG. It's an action RPG. There are very, very, very few choices the player can make throughout the game that have any real reactivity. But to paraphrase Emil, most of the Bethesda player base is just so stupid that they don't want to have a good story in their games. They just want to collect bobbleheads and fuck around. So I think that Bethesda may have taken the wrong lessons from the success of their simplification. Let's cut forward to their next game, Fallout 4. Bethesda had almost entirely done away with handcrafted cities at this point, making the player actually do all the work for them. I think this is one of the worst trends that began in BGS. I don't know who on the team decided they were tired of making cities, but Diamond City and Goodneighbor are really the only settlements that the player isn't forced to make themselves. I guess you could count the Pridwin, and you could count the Institute, and maybe even the Railroad if you wanted to, but that's still only 5 in the base game. And that's a huge shame, since you miss out on memorable NPCs and scripted events with those cities missing. And don't get me wrong, I like some of the characters and events that happen in these cities. Mo Cronin is a legend of Diamond City, and I really like the Silver Shroud quest and Goodneighbor. Both Wes Johnson related, because you know I just love that man. But outside from that, what do we really have going on in this game? For example, think of your favorite NPC in Skyrim, or even just in frickin' Whiterun. The moment you enter the city, you've got that guy that's like, Greymane or Battleborn. Then you walk by and you see Nazim, you go up a level and you got crazy Heimskr screaming at the sky, and then in Balgriff's court, you've got the fucking gang, you got Farengar, Proventus, Irileth, and the Hoss himself, Jarl Balin.
I am Jarl Balgriff, and I be ballin', Jarl Balin. Awesome. Ballin', swag.
These characters are possible because Skyrim was made by a team of people, and thus Whiterun was designed by people who gave a shit. And this is just one town in one Bethesda game. Riften, Solitude, Coral, Balmora, Aldrin. These places are all infinitely more interesting to explore than the Red Rocket truck stop.
But they are going to spend 30 hours making shacks.
When the player is forced to make all the settlements themselves, it can be fun for the first 1 or 2, but it quickly becomes hollow when 80% of the NPCs in your town are just no-names called settler that spawned in to work the farms for you. It loses something, genuinely. And there's zero exploration to be had in these player-made settlements either. I always remember how fun it was for me as a kid to find those thief caches that spawn in cities when you hit milestones in the Thieves Guild Restoration. Looking around Riften and Markarth to find my arrows and gems is just a core memory for me. I can even recall where some of those barrels are to this day. There's one down by the waterfall in Markarth. There's one by the Riften Fort, Mistvale Keep. There's one up there. It's important to have locations like that and reactivity like that. In Oblivion, the quest where you have to help the Countess of Coral find the painting thief in her castle is just a classic for me too. This quest really blew my mind as a kid because it was an instance of me needing to solve a puzzle with my mind and not with my sword, and the clickable aspects of the environment, looking for clues. It's a simple quest looking back, but it's probably one of my all-time favorites in the whole series, to be honest with you. Anyway, my main point here is that Bethesda unnecessarily put the onus on the player in Fallout 4 to make their own fun in the world, rather than providing more curated locations to live in. And then, Fallout 76 came next. And oh boy. So if Fallout 4, generally speaking, took out cities, Fallout 76 jumped the shark by flatly removing NPCs as a whole. Sort of. They actually did have a few NPCs in game, but they were either audio-only characters that spoke through tapes or radio, or they were just robots. Their idea here was to have other players in 76 act as the NPCs themselves, so 95% of Fallout 76 is just empty. And I really like the map design of 76 since it's much more varied and colorful than the typical bland color palettes of the Fallout games, but outside of that, not only did 76 at launch not have any cities to really explore, it also once again made the player build the settlements themselves, except this time, your settlement could be destroyed by other players on the map, or even just nuked away. This, combined with the fact that the other players in the game were supposed to be your NPC fill-ins, left 76 feeling overall just sad. Most Bethesda fans don't want to get on and be social, we want to explore your world and do unique quests. I'm just happy that, as an Elder Scrolls fan, Bethesda seems to test all their weird ideas on Fallout people rather than us, so I'm thankful for that. Finally, we'll briefly talk about Starfield, which took the emptiness of Fallout 4 and 76 and amplified it to the extreme. An entire galaxy of planets at your disposal that are all, once again, mostly empty and need you to build a base yourself on it. I mean, what the fuck? I could enjoy the building in Fallout 4, but Jesus Christ, guys, I mean, how did we fall so far from grace? Well, like I said previously, Bethesda were never angels. Their games were always flawed, but thankfully for them, they always had the modding community to help them along. And again, Emil Pagliarulo points this out.
We have very, very good extensive tools for creating content at Bethesda. In fact, we release those tools publicly. Anyone here can download them and make stuff with it.
The modding community is in fact a large reason that Bethesda games are as popular as they are. Mods range from being extraordinarily goofy, like the Thomas the Train Dragon mod or the Macho Man Deathclaw mod, to serious ones like Beyond Skyrim Bruma, where players have added entirely new zones and questlines through their Creation Engine modding kit. So, with that in mind, let me ask you. If you're a Bethesda higher up and you notice that the community is creating their own content within your games through mods, you might start to slack off a bit, right? I mean, the Skyrim unofficial patch is the most downloaded mod for Skyrim on Nexus. So why can't Bethesda game studios patch their own games? Everyone knows Bethesda games are buggy. Shouldn't they fix these issues themselves? I mean, Emil Pagliarulo even said they have the tools to do this. Well, yeah, they should fix their own games, but again, why would they? They have millions of unpaid workers who will do that shit for them. Todd Howard himself has the Sky UI mod. Like, my brother in Talos, you made the UI, bro. If you have a problem with it, you can literally go in and fix it in an update. But no, just hop on Nexus and add a mod to your list to fix the problem. That's fine. And I'm not trying to shit on anyone who mods. I know I've come across like that before. Mods are fun, and they're fine to play with. But I think we can all agree that Bethesda game studios should be held accountable for the game that they released, not the game that was fixed with mods by unpaid, passionate fans. I also follow Bethesda on Instagram, and they did just so happen to release this post earlier where they were featuring a creation, so featured creation by Broken Classic 2 roleplay backgrounds. The roleplay background Starfield game creation by Broken Classic 2 is perfect for players who like to tell a story with their character containing many new backgrounds and traits to explore as well as modifications to existing backgrounds. Thank God people do seem to be catching on to this. I love this comment right here. Working at Bethesda must be so easy. Clock in, take credit for modders' work, port old assets, and charge them full price, and clock out. Pretty funny comment section here. I also saw a comment that I'm guessing got deleted or the user took it down, but it was on my phone and I did take a screenshot of it, so I'll pop it up on screen. But it said, "You shouldn't rely on your community to improve your game," and then "should have been in the game from the start, but okay." Just makes me happy to see people holding Bethesda accountable, even if I can't find those comments anymore on the PC version. The people that I've heard tell me to just mod out issues in a Bethesda game are missing the point entirely. If they release a product that has shitty qualities to it at launch, they should not be excused by the fact that there are mods to fix said issues. I think this also comes down to the core of the problem with why Bethesda won't change their engine. Everyone knows the creation engine is wonky and weird, but if they change it, they'll lose the modders that help them along the way. And this just routes back to the laziness of the Creation Club once again, where rather than making their own content for Skyrim, they just outsourced modders. It's all stupid. It's all just dumb. I'm honestly just exhausted with Bethesda at this point. All we can do is hope that Elder Scrolls 6 takes notes from Bethesda's peers and just wakes up a little bit. Anyway, I've been Daraloth, and I hope to see you all around. And before I go, I would like to give my channel members a special shout out, as it's through their support that I am able to release videos like this on a consistent basis. So, special thank you to Brave Fen, Arthur Kolpani, HS Crimson, Drake Butler, Chad Clayton, Calorie Darkness, Celise, Silverballs, Cintola, Ina the Khajiit, Peace, Sophie, British Rogue, Thin White Duke, Sequencer, Sir Ragu III, Brendau Almeida, Marcus Strangle, Omo, Jacob Waymo 22, Abby Normal, Faust Lament, The Chosen J, Alexis, Ranger McKay, Breezy Stratton, Jake A.S., Soulless Saint, TJ, Skooma Addict, Ophelia Drowning, Braden Thompson, Naji aka Tracy, Jug, Aaron Dobbs, Dishonored Pro 3500, OOP, Joel Evers, Debash, and Inherent Man X. Thank you guys all so much for your support, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.